another edition of Creator News Live. So glad you're here. We're going to have fun right before a holiday. What else would you want to do on a Friday, right? You want to hang out here, ask your questions. We're going to be talking about AI, admin stuff, systems. Jennifer Bennett, who we met before, but we really talked a couple weeks ago in Wichita, where I was speaking. It was an awesome conference. We had so much fun there, and it was great to hang out back in the day, because that's where I grew up in Kansas, not in Wichita, but in Kansas. So it was a lot of fun. And so she's super smart. I couldn't wait to have her come on the show and pick her brain a little bit, because that's so much fun. And then we also have the amazing Zach Brown, who's fresh off the Kindle edition of his book that he put out, which I'm very excited about. Zach Brown, how you doing, my friend?
I am great, man. Looking forward to this semi-quincentennial weekend that we got going on.
That's right. It's a lot of fun. Jennifer's here. So Jennifer, College Station, we're not too far away from each other, about 3 and something hours. So my kids both went to college in College Station. So I love the town. It's really cool. But I'm glad you're here.
Thank you for inviting me, and congrats, Zach, on your book. I can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it
that's
is
kind.
I just had the first chapter because he gave me that one when we had him on the show before, and it's really good. And I can't wait to read the rest of it, because Zach is very creative. If you haven't signed up for his newsletter, I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. Go get it. And you can find him all across the interwebs at Zach Brown Creative. Sign up for his newsletter, because it has some good creative stuff in it. We've got some of our friends already showing up. We've got the amazing Dustin Stout from Magi waving at us. Thank you for that kind wave, Mr. Stout. My buddy Rich Graham, he's from Dallas, going hey, hey, and giving us a wave. Also, Raymond Keating, the amazing author. I don't know how many books he has, but they are fabulous as well. He is a prolific author and fun to see. We've seen him a couple times in Orlando. And then we have Kira saying happy Friday. She helped me co-host last week, did an amazing job. And congrats to Zach on the book. So exciting. So this is going to be awesome. Once again, I want you guys to ask your questions. We want to be really tactical today, because we've got Jennifer here. And she's really into systems and AI, and she was showing me stuff that I hadn't even thought about. We went to Dennis Yu's workshop, and it was a fabulous workshop, and she had some great stuff she was showing me. But yeah, this is going to be exciting. So ask your questions. Don't be shy. We want to make this show all about you. And with that, you guys ready? I'm going to go on the podcast machine, and we'll get started. Ready?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Get everything set up, and my cursor's gone. Where did it go? Where did it go? There we go. Okay, here we go. Hello, folks. Welcome to Creator News Live. I'm Jeff C., and you're not.
And I'm Zach Brown, and this is a show that keeps you up to date on what's happening in the world of the creator economy and so much more.
How much of your week disappears into work that nobody ever sees? The inbox, the scheduling, the follow-ups, the endless repurposing. Have you ever felt like you got into this to create and be creative, and instead you have become your own unpaid admin? And what if AI could actually take that off your plate without making everything you publish sound like everyone else? If that sounds familiar, you are in the right place.
Our guest today is Jennifer Bennett, the founder of GetDesky and a fractional chief AI officer who spent over 20 years inside high-volume operations, at one point running the systems behind 1.2 million leads a month. Today, she is showing us how to hand the back-end busy work to AI and AI agents, how her human-driven AI integration method works, and how to keep your voice intact while you do it.
So sit back, clear your schedule, clear your mind, and get ready for this week's episode of Creator News Live.
It's Creator News Live. Let the busy work go. Jennifer Bennett is here. She's stealing the show. Hand off the admin. Let the robots run tight. Keep your own voice and create what's right.
That's right. We're going to talk about how to create what's right with Jennifer Bennett today. But first, I want to do a big shout out to our sponsor, which is Ecamm. Yes, that's right. Ecamm. You can find out more about them at ecamm.com/Jeff. You can use code Jeff15 to save 15% on your first purchase. And by the way, they have something coming up just next week, and I will be there. It's their creator camp right in front of the Max Stock Conference. So it starts at July 9th, 2026, and we will be there in the Chicago area. It's actually Crystal Lake, and you guys can go there. If you want to find out more about this, I think tickets are still available. I would love to come see you and hang out, but if you go to ecam.com/camp, you'll see all their camps they have coming up this year. They have this one and another one coming up in, I believe, New Hampshire, which is going to be awesome as well. So would love to see you at MacStock Creator Camp. So go and see us there in Chicago area. All right, so let's jump right into this. But I wanted to ask the audience, you guys, before we get started, I want to know how you're feeling about AI in your business right now. I want you to put in the chat, excited, overwhelmed, or skeptical. So AI in your business, excited, overwhelmed, which I think a lot of us are, or skeptical. Let us know down below from wherever you're watching from, and we would love to know what your thoughts are on this. So, Jennifer, you call yourself the executive in the building, not the consultant on the sideline. So what does that distinction actually mean for a solopreneur or a small team who cannot afford this whole ops department that they see so many of these big businesses have?
Yeah, so the biggest distinction for that is the vast majority of the people, they need somebody that's in the messy middle that comes in and is going to sit with them and figure out exactly what they need versus handing them a guide, handing them a template, creating them a roadmap, all of this different stuff for them to go and do it themselves. Because the vast majority of you guys are such amazing at what you do, but you are not amazing at taking away all of the desk work that comes with building a business. And that's what I really shine in really, really well.
Awesome.
Jennifer, your thesis is that AI will never replace real presence, that the future belongs to founders who train AI on what only they can carry. That is something that I am fascinated by. Unpack that for someone who's worried that AI is going to make something sound the same as everything else.
Well, it comes down to a few different things. So you have to remember that AI and its state that it's in right now is still a robot. And when you get down to the real heart of that, it's still programmable logic. So it only determines and reads based off of the logic that it is programmed in. So it doesn't have the in-depth decision trees, the emotions, all of the different cascades of things that happen inside like the human mind at all times. We can have like multiple different emotions all at one time. And those can drive our decisions, or we can train ourselves to kind of like feel them and then let them go. And that is not something that any sort of AI or any kind of automations can really do. Automations can go and say, hey, this happens. Okay, then, let's search all of the rest of this stuff and let's make the best logical choice. There's no emotion that is in that. And that's the biggest part. I think I recently put up a post about that as well, too, explaining, when people are going through and they're making hard decisions or they have life that is lifing, they don't need a robot to tell them what the coping strategies are. A lot of the times what they need is they need somebody that's just going to sit with them and allow them to borrow their presence for whatever that is. And that's something that AI can't take away. You can't take away that physical presence that only you can give somebody when they're going through whatever it is they're going through.
I think that's a great point because like even at the conference we were in a couple of weeks ago, like I wouldn't have asked the AI Jennifer bot if I was, trying to find out about you. I wouldn't ask her to be on the show. But since we were able to sit down together, experience the conference together, then I was like, okay, she would be fun. This would be somebody I'd like to introduce to my audience. That kind of stuff, I don't think AI is ever going to be able to replace because there's that give and take. There's that FaceTime, which I really, once more, I love everything that AI can do for me and it's helped my business. But I really think going out and making those connections and going to conferences and all that stuff is still super important, especially for a small business owner or a solopreneur. I just think that's the way you can take your business to the next level. But speaking of that, of taking to the next level, Jennifer, you managed systems, behind like 1.2 million leads a month before you built this Get Desky thing that you have. So what did running at that scale? Because that's a lot. Like you think about 1.2 million leads, that's a lot. So what did that teach you about what breaks first when you grow, and how does that apply to a creator going from like 5,000 followers to 50,000 followers?
Yeah, so in that capacity, I was running an ad agency that mainly targeted real estate agents. And those leads were coming in for brokerages all over the world. And really what breaks first is your undocumented processes. The vast majority of those were for buyers or sellers. And what came down to the wire was people didn't have good follow-up systems. They didn't set up their systems before they even did it. I literally sat down probably 3 years ago with a mentor that I had. And one of the questions that he asked me, he says, well, how many of the people were really successful with the leads that you generated for them? And I said, about 15%. And of those 15% of people that had those leads come in and were successful, they asked the question first of, okay, I'm going to have all of these leads come in for me or my brokerage or my whole team. What do I need to do to make that be successful? So the ones that were doing that, they sat down and they looked at, okay, this is going to come in. What do I need to have in place before this first lead comes in? Do I need to have a round robin where multiple of my people are touching this person? Do I need to have sales scripts ready? Do I need to have templates? Do I need to what all do I need to have to make sure that every lead that touches this system actually works? And the vast majority of the people did not even take a pre-call to know what kind of CRM should I have. Should I even have a CRM? That was the biggest thing to me. And then also, like, what should I be prepared for? Like, what should the lead flow look like? When should I know if there's a problem? All of these different things. And it revolved around an undocumented sales process for them, really, because they were in such feast or famine that they needed more. They thought that they needed more leads. The vast majority of them really didn't need more leads. They needed to double down on what they already had in their system in a much better way. And they didn't want to do that. They just wanted more leads. And so their undocumented process like exasperated that to an exuberant level for some of them, because some of them would get hundreds of leads a day. Some of the brokerages and larger places, they were getting upwards of like 3,000 to 5,000 leads a month. And they were closing at less than 1%. Right. Because their sales process was not fine-tuned enough.
So I guess the question would be, so now with AI, is there any reason why there should not be an undocumented process anymore? Because now AI can take that heavy lift that a lot of the stuff that I'm using AI for is like, I would love to do it, but I never had time. And now I can do it because I do have that time. Is that what you're seeing? And is that what you're saying as well?
100%. We have note takers that can follow us around. One of my favorite tools that I use to document processes is called Scribe. And between that and all of the note takers, all of the different avenues that you have to be able to document your processes, there's no reason as to why you can't have documented processes that you can then feed to an AI, that you can then feed to a sales team, that you can then feed to an executive assistant, that you can then feed into, your editor, all of these different things that are going to allow you to do that. There's really not a whole lot of excuses out there as to why you do not have undocumented processes, but it is one of the reasons why the vast majority of entrepreneurs and small business owners that I encounter, why their systems break is because everything lives in their head. and they are so on fire and they just want to grow their business so that they can make the impact that they want to have, but they're not willing to sit down with their team or even an AI or even a tool like Scribe and take the 5 minutes to do that. I cannot tell you the vast majority of times when I was running upwards of a team of 8 for Get Desky, of somebody would ask me how to do something and I'd go and describe and I'd just put it in there and I'd be like, okay, now next time don't ask me, it's
Right.
there in the library. Did you see that? Is there a question about that?
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
You've presented an actual issue and a solution. So I'm sitting on this side going, well, this is obvious. But I think there's a lot of people in our audience, just out in the world, that they're either scared of AI or maybe they feel like there's too much and they're feeling behind. And so, like, I'm just not going to get started. When you sit down with a founder who has just basically bounced off AI already, what is it that you feel is the real reason that AI did not stick with them?
Lack of understanding of the way that you train AI. Okay. So you have to remember when technology first came into the vast majority of workplaces back in the early 2000s. Okay. It was presented in such a way that it was set it and forget it. Okay. And so the mentality is okay, I can go in and I can set this and then I can forget it. AI, because it has generative and pattern recognitions, you have to think of it less as a standardized automation, like this happens, you do this. And you have to think of it more as you're training an intern that you're then going to rise up into other roles. So you have to come in and assume like this kid knows nothing about anything, and you have to bring it up to the level that which you wanted to do that. And that means when you bring in an intern, usually you're with them quite a bit. You're refining them. You're saying, hey, this was amazing, you did really great here. Hey, let's tweak this. Instead of this here, let's put this here. Really sitting down and working with them on that. And that's the vast majority of the gap that I see with some of the founders is they want this set it and forget it, because a lot of the times their hair's on fire.
Right.
I mean, service providers, especially, for sure, like they're really good at plumbing, electrical, all these different things. And they have all these leads coming in. They want something that they can set and forget. And you can't do that with AI.
Right. So I want to, we asked the question where people are at, like if they're scared of it, if they're using it or whatever. And we had some great comments. And this one from Rich Graham says, loving having Claude help with email and day planning. I do the same thing. I think that's awesome. And you mentioned earlier, Jennifer, talking about the recorders, and I use Fathom. That's what I use because it's free and it's easy. I use it for my mastermind. But I think a lot of us are doing something that I did for a long time, is like I would use Fathom, it would record the notes, and then I did nothing with it, right? Well, I had a skill now, so and I use it mainly for my masterminds that I run with Paul Gowder. And what happens is now it automatically goes and transcribes it's already transcribed in Fathom, but it pulls it down, puts it in a database that my AI I can ask it questions later, or come up with products, or what should our next thing be about that we need to talk about based off those conversations. But it was that unlock that I had that, okay, finally, instead of just recording it, now it needs to do something with that data. And so now there's a process, a system in place that does that automatically. One of the lines that you said, and I love this line, you said systems before software, which I was not a systems guy. I'm starting to be, because I see how valuable it is. But most creators are like me. They do the opposite. They buy the tool first. They get Fathom or whatever. So why does that backfire? And what should they do instead? Instead of waiting for such a long time like I did, what are you telling creators to do?
Well, creatives and entrepreneurs, we love shiny objects. Okay. Right. We love the next big thing that we think is going to just grow our business without us. Okay. But if we don't understand the system in which we want people to filter through, whether that's an email, whether that's all these other things, it's not going to matter. The tool's not going to work. The Fathom's not going to work. All of these different things are not going to work if we don't sit down and say, okay, these people are coming into my circle. What am I going to do with them? We have to think of, the system as a whole, as an ecosystem of like, hey, how do we move these people forward? And so we can't sit there and, just buy all the tools. I've met some founders that had upwards of like 200 tools. And I'm like, why? I'm like, some of these tools do the exact same thing. Why do we have so many of them? And so one of the things I also talk to my founders about is, do you really need all these tools? Is there one specific feature that this tool does that none of your other tools do in your stack?
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't answer that and they can't tell me that for certain, I'm going to tell them, like, let it go. Because, if you've got, 3 CRMs and all of them do about the same, which, spoiler alert, the vast majority of them do, you don't need multiple ones unless there are multiple ones for different businesses, and you can explain that to me.
Yeah. One of the things that I tell people all the time is like, every one of these tools, they want you to sign up for an annual plan, and they give you a big discount when you do that. Don't do it, because things are changing so fast. Like, you might want to switch, unless you're doing like something like Magi. That's the only one I say, because that gives you access to all the tools and you can play, especially when somebody's starting out. I love Dustin's product. But don't buy the yearly plan of anything else, because this week Claude's great. Next week it's going to be ChatGPT, OpenAI stuff. So don't get locked into a system when it changes so fast. So I'm willing to pay more for the freedom to switch. But I want to ask the audience, if you could wave a magic wand, what is one admin task you would hand off tomorrow if you could? Would it be your email inbox? Would it be scheduling calls? Would it be following up those calls, repurposing, or something else? Tell us in the comments, wherever you're watching. Put it down below. I would love to know if you could wave that AI magic wand and have it do something for you, what would you take off your plate right now? I would love to know, because I think some of you, you probably could, and you just don't know it. So that's what we have Jennifer here to talk about.
Jennifer, I love what you said about, just the leaders who their hair's on fire. And I think so many of us feel like that. Just all the things that are just eating our lunch. We're like, I've got so much to do. So for the creator, the solopreneur, if they were to come to you and be like, Jennifer, I need your help, what is the first backend admin job that you would tell them to hand off to AI or an AI agent? Like the boring stuff that is just quietly eating their week.
So it's not which one I would do. I actually sit down with them and see which one is creating the fire. Because sometimes it's their audience. Sometimes it's their inbox. Sometimes it's their calendar. Sometimes it's their team. So, or sometimes it's service calls. Sometimes it's all these different things. So really what you have to do is you have to have a holistic view of what is actually eating the founders, not time, but actual mental bandwidth. Because sometimes it is less about the actual physical task, and it's more about the mental bandwidth that is literally draining the founder and making it feel like, their hair's on fire. And so sometimes sometimes you can just figure out which one is the mental bandwidth and then design a system around that one to reduce that. And the mental feeling of like, I'm always stressed out. There's chaos everywhere. That feeling goes away. And then they're able to objectively look and say, okay, I'm spending way too much time on my inbox. Okay, how can I systematically train an AI agent to manage some of that to where it's only pinging me, hey, Jen, you got to pay this invoice, or hey, like my agent for my inbox and my calendar, it schedules all of my my requests that come in. And then it also will follow up with them and be like, hey, we're going to have a meeting the next day. Is there anything we need to change about that? Is there anything we need to know about the meeting? And if it does, it'll update it automatically. I don't even have to think about it. So it just shows up and it just does that. It's like, hey, Zach, we're meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Is there anything we need to change? Do we need to go through there? And then sometimes I'll be like, hey, I need to reschedule that. Can you reschedule that meeting for me?
That's great.
And it'll do that. So, making it to where it takes away some of that stuff is really helpful.
So we have a very detailed one from Adam in Silver. He says, this is really interesting. He goes, what I would want to hand off would be updating YAML global email filters and cPanel for news, spam, phishing, and reporting to abuse. And it's becoming a bigger problem that spammers have leveraged AI. It's becoming a cat and mouse game. What he's saying. I love it that he has a very specific use case. And I think a lot of people watching, a lot of creators, a lot of creatives have the issue of like, they feel like they're drowning already and they don't know where to start. Like they know everything is broken. It's like you get into this vapor lock. Like, I don't know what even to start on. And what has been helpful for me, Jennifer, and I think you've talked about this before too, is that having AI interview you so you can find the thing that you could do first that will give you the most leverage to do those other tasks. I used to roll a dice to like figure out what I should do on my to-do list because they were all important, right? Like, okay, if they're all important, which one do you start with? So I would gamify it by rolling a dice. Now I have AI that kind of says, hey, if you do this, this may help with this down the road. And, it kind of can walk you through and help you prioritize things. I love the ask me questions that Claude has. I love it that he asked me that and I can really nail it down. So I want to have you walk us through your human-driven AI integration methods, which is diagnose, design, deploy, and drive. So if I'm a team of one, what does each stage actually look like in my business?
Yeah, so we touched on this a little bit already, is I sit down with founders and figure out where the vast majority of the time suck is coming. And like I said, sometimes for the vast majority of people, it is more mental than it is actual physical task at first, because it goes into like so say Adam's question, which I love it, by the way, because I actually have a solution for that. I created a special bot just for that one. Is I really want to get to the heart of the feeling first, because if I can't unlock the feeling of being on fire, once you set up your engine, your business engine, if you don't take care of the feeling first of being on fire, even if things are well oiled, the founder's still going to be in the middle. So he's just going to create more chaos. So you have to remove that first before you can actually go in and start building things with automations, with AI, or even creating SOPs or systems, processes, any of that kind of stuff. So you have to figure that out first. And then once we figure that out, then we can design, okay, this is what we do first. This is how we do it. And then we deploy it and we retrain it.
Got it.
There is a real difference between using ChatGPT and building an actual AI agent and workflow that runs on its own. Hand up accountability. I have not done this yet. I know I need to. I'm hearing it over and over and over again. So Jennifer, yes, it's for our audience, but I'm going to be selfish. Talk to me. In plain English, what is an AI agent and where does it change the game for a small team or let's say a solopreneur?
Yeah, so there's a big difference between an agent that can actually run without you, and automation. So the vast majority of people that come to me, they say, "Hey, I want this to follow up with people." There's automations for that. There have been automations for that since the early 2000s. But what I'm talking about is you're going in and you're training an AI to think like you and go through and detect all of the different patterns that are available and then make a decision based on the data that you have given it. Okay. So it is pretty much in layman's terms for all of the people that have ever created automations, this is removing the vast majority of the decision trees of the if this happens, then do this. So now it is pretty much short coded, having to have make, or what it was called a long time ago, Integromat or Zapier, for some of the things that people used to use it for. Like one of the things that I did in real estate for the longest time, and I don't think people realized it, was Zapier actually had an email reader, and it was called parser.zapier. And so you could go through and you could have it read for keywords in an email and it would do something. So now you have something that within 5 minutes, instead of learning how to do parser, you can have it say, hey, read all of these emails. And if they sound like XYZ, they go over here. If they're this, put them here. If they're this, put them here.
Yeah.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
What's so cool that I think is like the stuff that I'm not a data nerd, but now I can be, like, really easily. Like I sent an agent to go and crawl I use Kit for all my emails. So it told me like the best subject lines, what you talked about in the past, your frequency, what are people clicking on, all that stuff. Now you could go and drill in doing all that stuff inside the dashboard, but having AI have a connector that can go in and just spit me out a report in 5 minutes. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg too, but being able to take chunks of data that I would never even take the time to look at and have it distill it down so I can understand it and actually be useful, that's the thing I think is really, really cool. Because you have a thing you call the human check, which is an idea I think is really key for anybody who starts playing with AI. Make sure the output still sounds like you before it goes live. So talk about that, because I know that's something that a lot of people want to know. Like, how do you train AI on your voice and your judgment? That's the other part. Not just a lot, Jasper was able to clone your voice a little bit, but your judgment, like the stuff that you want, and cloning your logic, not just spitting out generic, AI slop. How do you get it to do that?
Right. So that goes back to the mindset of this is not an automation. It is an intern. So you have to think of this as an employee. So that means when this agent comes in, you have to train it on all of these different decision metrics. You have to train it on, this is what I say. Like, I have words that I don't use in my written words. I have stories that I use. I have stories that I don't use. I have sources that I will pull from, and why I pull for them, and different things like that. You have to give time and effort to this. And the vast majority of the people that are producing AI slop, they're just doing it. They're like, oh my God, I need to get a graphic out. ChatGPT will do one in 5 minutes. I saw Jeff's over here, drop it in there, and it looks exactly like Jeff's. I wonder why it looks like Jeff's, because you copied Jeff's. You didn't take the time to teach it like who you are, your core values, your mission, your vision, like where you're going, what you're doing, all these different things. Think about it. Like, when you go and anybody has been hired at a job, do you just go in and be like, hey, I need you to create an ad campaign for this, without telling them anything about the company, anything about your mission, anything about your vision, anything about, the goals that you guys have, anything like that? Does anybody do that? No. They tell you about the culture. They tell you about all this different kind of stuff. They tell you about the company story. Mm-hmm. You don't have that. I'm sorry. Your stuff is going to look like everybody else's on the internet. That's why.
Yeah. Real quick, Zach, for your question, I gotta get nerdy for a minute. So
Jeff's getting his nerd on. It's a nerd alert.
Okay. So one of the things that I think that we need to talk about, because you talked about having this information that people can do, coming up with a design system, because you mentioned, like, don't look like Jeff, just copy an image. Take the time to create a design system, like a .md file, which is a markdown file, but it has your logos, your colors, everything put together. And the cool thing is, once you create that, it doesn't matter what system you use. You can drop that document into ChatGPT, you can do it to Claude, whatever, but it has that built into it. So, and if you don't even know what that is, have the AI interview you and have that document put together. Anyway, off the soapbox, but I think it's really cool because I think Google's trying to standardizing the kind of the design.md file. So I think it's a good place for people to start if they haven't done that yet. Sorry, end of nerd rant. There we go.
No, I love that because that goes back to, remember, we're not having standardized automations. We are training an employee essentially in your business. And therefore it has to know all these things. You're not going to go and have all these things in there and not use them because now it remembers it. A lot of them have much better context windows than they used to have when they first launched in 2019. Perplexity just launched memory, which you and I geeked out about in Wichita. I opened up my thing and I was like, oh my God, look, it looks like obsidian. And he was like, oh my gosh, yes, it does. But when you think about it that way, when people talk about like imparting their brain into AI, this is what they're talking about, because the goal is, when you are in this space, is to create freedom. And the only way you could do that is you have to be able to train it on all of these different aspects of you.
Very true. Yeah, very true. And it's worth doing because it gets better and better when you do it that way.
Oh yeah.
I think in the same way that, Chick-fil-A and Disney creates, their team members, their cast members to be brand ambassadors. We should be doing that with our AI agents, making them follow the same guidelines and be like, hey, like this thing can run and it's taking my culture and running with it. Like we would expect no less than, a really solid employee. So just a thought on that. Jennifer, if you'd give everyone watching a starting point, if someone wants one AI system running in their business by next Friday, an actual time saver, not just a hobby, what is the first one that you would have them build?
Well, first of all, I would have them review. So a little bit of a secret sauce about me. About 2.5 years ago, I started doing something where on Fridays, I review all of my emails, all of my text messages, all of my social media interactions, everything of that sort. And I figure out, okay, what went good, what didn't, where can I improve? And now with AI coming in is, okay, what can I offload to AI? And so it's really more about learning what your process is to augment, because everybody's little thing is different. The vast majority of people are going to say it's inbox and it's calendar, but I would make people pause to see if that's actually where it's at, because sometimes people are actually really good at managing their inbox and they need something else first. Like maybe it is creating more blog posts, maybe it's doing other stuff, and they're just thinking about the obvious, easy one when they're forgetting about some of the other stuff they're doing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know, where's the line for you that you won't use AI? So what does AI generally make better, and what will you never, ever hand off to it?
There's a few different things that I will never hand off to AI. One of them is I'm not a big perpetuation of anything that has to do with a digital clone. While I could probably do it. And then also digital pictures. So I will use it to enhance and maybe do some of the fun, videos or things like that. But I will not, I won't have it do full renderings of me. Like I'll do the fun, like character ones or that kind of stuff, but I will never have like photogenic, realistic ones. And like some of the ones on my website, they're actual legitimate pictures of me, but I did enhance the backgrounds with AI. So that's the line I'm not willing to cross, just because there's so many people that are doing avatars and they're doing clones. And if that's the line that they're willing to cross, more power to them. But that's not one I'm willing to cross.
Yeah, that's why I love live video, because it's really hard to fake. Now, I love playing with image generation, like we showed, this, those kind of things I think are fun. But I'm like with you, I don't want to do a video clone. I just think that's a little, one, you don't want to clone this. That freaks people out. So I just, that's kind of the line that I have as well. But one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, people hear AI agent, right? And then like Fable just rolled out back to us this week, and then it's going to go away again. But when they hear this agent, they think, okay, this is something super technical and super expensive. So, but how simple can the first one actually be? Talk about like somebody who's like, I know I need to, like, what can I do first in building an agent? What do you tell them?
Start with something simple that you don't mind if it messes up. So if it messing up your calendar is going to really throw you for a loop, don't do that. If it's going to be, the same thing with your email, don't worry about that. There's a lot of friends and mutuals that we know, they post a lot of fun prompts. The first thing that I would encourage people, if they're even curious about doing AI, is play around with prompting first, because as with anything that works with computers, it has a totally different language than you do. And sometimes you have to teach it what your definition of those words are. Like, for instance, one of the key phrases that I put into all of my agents is world-class flawless execution. I then have to explain to it what that actually means in Jennifer Bennett's terms. So I can't just say world-class execution, because then it can go and look at all of these people that are way world-class and think, okay, well, now Jen wants that. When it's really, no, world-class means this.
Got it. Yeah, defining. So that's one of the things, once again, going back when having an interview, you doing the, like what your core philosophy is. Like my thing, and my AI knows this, is that I would rather lose business than relationships. So relationship is huge to me. My AI knows that. And so everything goes through that filter. So that's what you also have to come up with yourself. The other question I wanted to, not a question, but more of a comment that I think is really good, because it's very important. Adam says, for attorneys, doctors, CEOs, etc., giving, access to email or documents hold privacy risks beyond the practitioner. AI requires trusting the company and any bad actors they hire. Yes, I think we're going to see more and more of that happening. Yeah. As things are going to come out, things are going to leak because they have given it to the AI, and you always have to think about that. I mean, one of the things I love about Magi, and Dustin talked about it in a post this week, was that because of Magi never is giving your data over to train any of these AI systems. So if you're needing some things that are very secure, something like Magi, and that's why they're also not in doing the Fable model. And there's a great post about that and why but they're not going to have that as of now because of some of this privacy stuff. So it's very important that you keep that in mind, especially if you're in like healthcare or like financial stuff, or even your clients. You don't want to throw your clients' stuff up there. I've had like authors get really bent out of shape when they find their book out on AI, or they're getting quoted inside of there. So you have to be careful. I mean, if you put anything on the web, it's going to come out anywhere. But that's a great point, Adam. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and to dive a little bit deeper into that, there are platforms like Perplexity that have those HIPAA compliances, those SOC 2s, those higher level securities, and those controls. So if that is something that your company needs, those security levels, make sure that you're actually consulting with someone that even knows what those are and how to constrain them. And that they're keeping it encapsulated inside of your company as well too. I know several of them have those securities available, but really sit down and read the fine print and understand it. And if you don't understand the fine print of it, go and find like a Swiss security company. I know I work with Proton, and they put out regular documents on who has really good security, which ones have had data breaches, all of that kind of stuff. And so you are educating yourself enough to even be able to talk to a consultant to know, is this the right one for you or not?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. By the way, another great point is our sponsor. We couldn't do this without Ecamm. We're going to be going to camp with them next week, but we have a quick word from them.
When your show deserves the very best, Ecamm stands above the rest. Ecamm.com/Jeff, won't you see? Broadcasting brilliance, easy as can be.
Once again, thank you to our sponsor, Ecamm. They are awesome. That's what we use to produce this show. All right, Zach, give us the audience question of the day.
So it's kind of a silly question, maybe silly. Maybe this seems outside of your realm at the moment, but thought to, consider, do you want to get paid to speak someday? Comment yes, no, or maybe there's no wrong answers. Just curious to see where you are today.
And you're going like, what in the world? Why are they pivoting to that? Well, Jennifer, and she was showing me this at in Wichita, which is very, very cool. But first, I want to. Dustin has a follow-up comment to we were talking about security with AI. He goes, "Yeah, here's the thing. So many companies don't know your staff is using AI, whether you know it or not." Mike Alton talks about shadow AI. Give them the tools to make sure that they're using it with privacy activated. Once again, very, very cool. So Jennifer says
and
yes.
Before we pivot,
yeah.
So, and also train them on how to use it. So yes, we give them the tools. Yes, we allow them to have the access. And yes, we put the privacy on the backside, but then we also bring in people that can actually train them to actually use it the proper way. Because I don't know about you guys, but have you guys not seen what the Amazon employees did when they first launched AI? You know why? Because they launched it and then they didn't teach all the people how to use it.
Right.
You know, and so bring people in that are going to teach your team and empower your team to use it effectively so that it grows what you want it to grow. Because leadership comes in and they're like, this is great. This is going to make it easier for my staff. We're going to grow, our revenue. It's going to be great. But then they miss that middle ground of like, you have to teach the people how to do that, because you're taking some of the task that those people were doing and now you're putting it in AI, and you're not teaching the people how to train the AI and open up proper feedback loops so that it actually does what it needs to do progressively going forward.
Yeah. Dustin had some great comments in there. Dustin has some great training too. So make sure you go follow Dustin and Magi everywhere. They have some great stuff online. And it was really interesting. So we're asking people like, would you want to speak someday? And the people who said yes or maybe, I know you guys, and you all would be great speakers. I know Jennifer, it would be awesome. Rich Graham, of course, Rich, you would be awesome. And then Disney Hotel Lady, maybe you could do it too. I know you could. But Jennifer has some really cool stuff that we were able to talk a little bit about at the Wichita conference, Digital Day Wichita. And let's dive into it, because you use AI to do deep research on events, hosts, audiences before you ever do your speaking pitch, right? Like, this is for you to get paid to speak. For a creator who wants to get booked to speak, what does that research actually surface that they might miss on their own?
It researches like the company. So, we talked a lot about our core values of, we have certain things. Like for me, one of the biggest ones is family. I'm a third generation woman entrepreneur, so family integration and things of that nature are super important to me. So I want to be associated with brands that have that culture and that are going to align. So when we're talking about, doing that kind of research, we're able to discover, like alignment in those core values, in those core missions, to where their mission may be adjacent to mine. And to where I'm not putting my brand in jeopardy with being around brands that are not. in that. And then one of the other really, really cool things in the process that I have is it tells you exactly how to pitch, when to pitch, and also how to build relationships, because that's one of the things that I love too. I'm real big into relationships too, is how to build relationships on the other side of that. So it's not just like, let's go connect with this person and then this is the perfect pitch to give them. But then I will also say, hey, these decision makers may be very active on LinkedIn. Go connect with them and make it to where they start seeing your content. So then cool. It's not only just, hey, I'm getting in their inbox, but now I'm able to push it to where they're seeing that, oh, this person is aligned with what we're doing. It's mission or vision adjacent, all of this different stuff. And so now you can double down on that. So not only are you sending in a CFP or whatever they want to call it, they call them different things, but now you're also building that relationship side as well. So, because then you can do deep recon of like, well, you might find out that one of them likes purple Skittles. You can buy Skittles by the color. Okay. So you could do that with M&Ms as well too.
Right.
But you might find that like this person likes purple. So you can go and you can send that to them. So, but you won't know that if you don't do this deep research.
Yeah. All I had to do is buy Lou Mangello sushi, and that was it. Like I have to speak every year now at his conference. Real quick before you get your question, Zach, is one of the questions I have, and I know you probably get this too, but because I produce Guy Kawasaki's podcast and of this show and Maker's Table and all these different shows, I get pitched a lot. And a lot of times the pitches are cold and you can tell they haven't even watched the show. They're like, hey, first name, we would love for you to have this, or I have their VA contact me like, hey, you should try this guy because he's great. For my show, like for Jennifer, I just send her a message like, hey, you want to come on? You know, my thing is my guests are very organic. They're people I really, really like. Anytime I have not done that, I've been burnt. So, does your tool help you with that process? Because I do not like cold pitches. And when you said relationship and helping them, you know, get your content in front of the people that you want to, that was very intriguing to me because I get so many bad cold pitches.
Yeah, so we can circle back up to Adam's question with this, because I get pitched a lot, and you're pulling from one of the posts that I did on LinkedIn about cold pitching in general. AI has exasperated this to no end.
Right.
I mean, it really has.
It's bad.
And so I created an actual email process for my agent that does that. And so it will read the email. And if it is not somebody that I have regular contact with in my inbox, it will actually send to them that post on LinkedIn and be like, hey, this might be helpful for you. Secondly, as far as building relationships, there's very minimal ways to do this. And yes, you can have tools to start conversations, but even in the vast majority of my emails, it's still me.
Mm-hmm.
My inbox, my text messages, you know, even on LinkedIn, the vast majority of those are still me. So now, while I might have my comment browser go in and make the initial connections off of, you know, the criteria that I have, that initial message is sent out, and then the rest of that conversation is me. So, you know, I played around with chatbots even as early as 2010. And the decision trees have gotten a little better, but they still fade. So right. We're still, you know, 16 years later, the conversation flow for these bots, even with the generative side on there, is still relatively in its infancy. And I'm talking about like when I had one for real estate, I had it to where people could tell me what kind of house they were looking for, what their budget was, and everything like that. And it would pull a webhook and send it to them back in the chat in the Facebook Messenger.
Mm-hmm.
So it can, in a short essence, to where it's just getting very little data and then pulling new data. But as far as full on, human to human conversations, there's just a depth that's just not there yet.
Yeah.
And the people that really care about relationships, they're not going to do that.
Exactly. I think that's a great point. Zach, final question.
For someone who has never been paid to speak, how would you use AI to figure out what you're even qualified to talk about? Like, who would pay to hear what you have to say? How would you get them to that place?
So this is assuming that you already have a note taker, and you've been doing Zoom calls and you've been meeting with people for a while. So why not drop those into your AI and have it tell you, like, hey, what are some of the things that I talk a lot about that I could probably create a presentation around?
Yeah.
And then go in and, again, make sure you know, like, your mission, your vision, your all these different goals and these different things that you have. Otherwise, your AI is not going to be able to help you. It's going to go haywire, because what it's going to do is, especially with the vast majority of the AIs, they are still very, very, very much programmed to placate you. So if they don't have your data to be able to pull from, it's going to go and find it.
Right.
So if it doesn't have my data on what the core values of GetDesky is, it might find Jeff's and just put Jeff's there.
Which would not be as good. So,
I mean, they wouldn't be bad, but they wouldn't be
Right.
be GetDesky's. They wouldn't be what Jennifer and Darlene's are. It wouldn't be it just wouldn't. And it shouldn't. And this is the part that a lot of people need to think about, is you've got to put your core essence into these so that it actually helps you with whatever it is you're helping it with. The vast majority of the people, they're like, oh my gosh, ChatGPT knows me so well. No, it really doesn't.
Yeah.
It is just reading the patterns of what you're telling it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And this is what we talk. If you haven't, like, the thread that goes through this entire conversation is that you need to put that into the memory where the AI can access it. So that is the big unlock that took for me. I pretty much did a word vomit using WhisperFlow, which I love, like, changes everything. And had it ask me questions for like an hour. And that's what made AI, like, that was like, okay, it gets me and understands. Now I can have this filter to run everything through. So yeah, Dustin even says, if it doesn't have your source of truth, it will find it or make it up, which that's why you want to have that truth that you can point to every time. Anyway,
wait, before we get to that. So yes, it needs to have that, but then we got to go further with that, because then we have to tell it that this is the source of truth. Do not go outside of that source of truth.
Right.
So remember, we're training an employee. Okay, this is cool. We do plumbing. These are the vendors we use. Okay. Then you say, okay, well, these vendors don't have it. Okay, they have to order it. Okay, we can't go to Joe Smo over here because their parts are crappy. So if that's not in there, this is where you have to get into that decision tree of, like, this is the source of truth. You don't search the web for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great stuff. Jennifer, once again, we could talk for hours about this, but this has been amazing. But I want to give these last couple minutes to you to tell people where they can find you. Maybe they're interested in speaking more, where they can contact you about this speaking process that you have using AI. So the floor is now yours.
Well, I actually made that app live. So anyone who wants to test it out is demo.getdesky.com, so they can try it out. They can see exactly how it works on a very simplified version. And then also, you guys can connect with me at getdesky.com. I have my socials on there. And I think everybody here is probably connected with me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. Come find me, connect with me, ask me all the questions. I love helping entrepreneurs and small business owners get some relief from the admin stuff that these glorious tools can take away.
Yeah, very, very cool. And she knows her stuff, as you can tell from the show. Had a great time sitting with her and nerding out on AI at the Wichita conference, and I'm sure we'll hang out at some other conferences coming up shortly. But Zach Brown, where can people find the amazing Zach Brown and your brand new stinking book that now is also on Kindle?
Well, you can follow me at Zach Brown Creative on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook. All the links are in the bios there. Would love for you to check out my new book, An Accidental Education, What I've Learned So Far. Definitely some great takeaways from the many wonderful and weird jobs that I have participated in over the years.
I highly recommend the book. So guys, go check that out. And everybody, I mean, such Dustin, Sean from But Mostly Disney, Rich Graham, of course, he says you do manage to get some awesome guests. But you know what? That's because I have
The Creator News Live chat room, the best chat room in the world.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you all next time. Have a great weekend. Happy, safe 4th of July for all our American friends. We'll see you next time.